Hello and welcome to everyone who is watching at home. This is a mini STEM career showcase. And we've been doing STEM career showcases at the Connecticut Science Center for quite some time. And it's a really, really fun event where we bring in STEM professionals, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics professionals, people who use science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in their jobs to the Science Center to kind of set up around, and they get to do demonstrations and activities with visitors at the Science Center. This is an online event, and we're hoping to be able to recreate what we do at the Science Center with those events as much as possible throughout this. Um, so we are broadcasting right now to Zoom and to YouTube. And we have a couple of people that we're going to be interviewing and talking with. And we also want you to be able to ask any questions that you may have. And that's one of the great things about the STEM Career Showcase is an actual interaction with someone who has a career that you may find yourself to be very interesting and may want to pursue yourself. The mission of the STEM Career Showcase is to highlight these careers where workers use their knowledge of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and understanding of how all those work in order to solve problems. So these may be jobs that you may know someone who has this job, or you may have this job yourself in the future, and then someone may know you. So we're just highlighting a few of these STEM career opportunities here today. These are opportunities that exist here in Connecticut, but if you're tuning in from somewhere else besides Connecticut, they most likely exist right in your communities wherever you are. We're going to be joined by Neelam Dimri from Cognizant, Allison Ray from Burns and McDonnell, Heather Honor from the Yukon School of Pharmacy, and Guy Labella from Goodwin University. Like I said before, we really want to see all of your questions in the chat so that we can ask these questions at the end. We're going to go through, everyone's going to have a little bit of a presentation and talk a little bit about their lives, what led them to where they are, and any tips or tricks for any young people who are looking to pursue a STEM career. And then at the end, we'll gather all of those questions and we'll ask as many of them as we can. And hopefully we can get some real great tips and experiences from our friends who are joining us here today. We will also be in the chat sharing full bios of everyone who is on the panel. So feel free to click those and read through them. They're in, I think, PDF format. So you'll be able to read up a little bit more on each person and maybe be able to ask a little more pointed questions if you notice something in their biography that they may not have mentioned while they were presenting. So without further ado, I think we should begin. Our first guest is Neelam Dimri, who is a lead user experience consultant and a senior manager at Cognizant. Neelam, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Nate. I'm very excited. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Very happy.
So could you maybe just explain a little bit about what you do as while working at Cognizant and how that applies to a STEM career?
Sure. So I am a senior manager projects and I'm a lead user experience consultant. So senior manager as in I get the opportunity to also manage the project that I'm working on. So that's why it's a very corporate title, senior manager, but anyone can be a senior manager. But I would like to focus more on the lead UX consultant part. So I'm from the user experience design field, and I'll just give a little bit about what that is, and then I can talk about my journey. So user experience is the experience of a user. All of us are experiencing this, panel conference, this discussion. So we are experiencing and we are users. So when someone designs that experience in the simplest terms, that is user experience design. And for better or worse, this is most applicable in the world of technology right now, but it also touches on science and engineering because we design applications, systems, websites, tools that the users use in any one of these fields. So if you are a dentist and you're using a tool to take an x-ray, that tool was designed by a user designer. I mean, there was a whole team of coders and testers and everyone who kind of built the tool, but the front end as to where is the button, how do I see the information, how do I go to the next screen, that experience aspect is what user experience design entails. So I had a bachelor's degrees in fine arts. I specialized in advertising. So I didn't really come up from any one of the four fields that we're talking about. I'm not from science or engineering or technology or mathematics. I suck at maths. Sorry.
Well, I think that's a good point, is that you don't necessarily need to excel in these subjects while you're in school to have them, kind of apply to you in your career later on.
Exactly. And I didn't ever, I mean, I was very creatively bent. So I thought that I would always be someone who's like designing posters or advertisements or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But very coincidentally, I came to know about this master's degree in industrial design, which in the simplest way is applying design thinking to solve problems. It could be, creating a toy, planning a museum or an installation, or creating a website, or creating an interactive book for children. So anything, right? And based on that, we were able to use the art of creativity and problem solving, which is actually a science, to create experiences. And that was the start of my career. I started by, creating brands, logos, and then I went into, creating websites and applications. So I've had a 20-year long career, and I've been with Cognizant for the past 8 years, and I've had the opportunity to work in India, in Canada, in US, with a plethora of people from different countries, different backgrounds, and that I feel is the most exciting part of my career, that I get to interact with people from very, very different backgrounds, understand their problems, get a window of what their day in their life is, and how I can make a difference in making their lives just a little bit better by improving the tool that they're using, or the website that they're using, or even the online form that they are using.
Right. Yeah.
That's just a little bit about my career and my path. But let me know if you want me to deep dive into what user experience design is.
Um, Actually, yeah, if you could maybe just highlight a recent project that you might have done where you made something a little easier on the user. I think that'd be great.
Sure. Do you want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is the design thinking process. And I wanted to talk about this just a little bit, because you don't have to be in user experience to really use this process. It can be anywhere. It's about understanding the problem, defining it properly, and then creating concepts out of it, and then creating a kind of a small prototype, something working. It could even be a napkin sketch, and then testing whether users can relate to it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you go to the next slide, uh, each one of these boxes can be a full-fledged career. So if you are in the domain of empathizing and defining, you become a user researcher. You get into researching and interviewing users, conducting group or focus interviews to understand the problem statement. If you are in ideation, you become like who I am, a UX consultant who's like creating concepts and solutions. If you go into the bucket of prototyping, you could become a developer, a coder, a Java,
Mm-hmm.
basically a developer. And if you get into testing, you could become a QA specialist, a test analyst, a person who writes test cases. So the overarching user experience design touches on all these different tools, depending on, do I have a problem solving mindset, or do I have a problem identifying mindset, or am I more a people person, or am I more from an engineering logical background? So that's the umbrella of user experience. Um, if we go to the next slide, I just wanted to, that would give, so this is, a snapshot of a project that would be like 8 months to 1 year. This was for an insurance company. So we went in to understand what their process was. And then based on what we heard from the users, we were able to create this whiteboard sketch where we included the stakeholders, the business team, the actual users to come and sketch to explain, what their issues are and what their steps are. Based on what they gave us, we came to the next sketch where we kind of did a journey mapping. So this is something like a journey map as to what are the 10 steps that they take and how can we optimize them? How can we make it easier for them? And once we get the whole team on the same page that, yeah, this seems to be better than the 25 steps that we were taking, we get into, how a page would look like. And then we get into the nuances of, should it be a button? Should it be a drop down list, a radio thing, or should it be an accordion where, like something is hidden and it expands? Those kind of micro user experience design. And in the end, voila, you have a page that you're actually interacting with. And since all of us use computers, websites, this is something that we relate with. So this is a snapshot of the entire journey that happens behind the scenes when you see a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, or any website page. We'll quickly go to the next thing. So user experience design can be used in so many different things. And I've worked on so many projects, but I've taken about, 3 or 4 samples of different things. The previous one was an online application tool where you enter inputs and you get an insurance quote. This over here is exactly the same process, but this is online creativity tool where you upload photographs of your house, you take the client wallpapers, and then you apply it online on your photographs to see whether what kind of a wallpaper would look nice on my my bedroom versus my living room. And then based on what you decide and what you've uploaded, the system is able to calculate how much will it cost and what would be the installation, and then you get a quote even without stepping into the showroom.
Oh,
Right.
wow. That is a really cool idea. And also it kind of highlights on your role as a user experience professional, because so something like this tool is designed to make it easier for you to go through and plan out how you're going to paint your house or whatever. But if the tool itself is frustrating to use, then it doesn't really help anyone because everyone will give up halfway or something like that.
Exactly. And then this tool helps the user as well as the company behind, because the more they see people using a specific wallpaper versus, a specific color, gives them the analytical data to say which are the popular colors and which are the popular trends for this season. And that impacts the fashion industry and, it's so interconnected. So the next example on the next slide is a mobile app. So when we talk about user experience design, sometimes we may get limited that it's just a website. So that's why I've just taken these 5 examples to show you that it could be an online tool. It could be an application like, filling your tax. This is a mobile app, which is really popular these days. And it's like a fast track to so many people's success. You come up with an idea, you get a designer, you get a coder, and you implement it, and you have an app that people can download and use. So this was a virtual reality, an augmented reality app for one of the credit card companies, where they said that we will make it easy to users to kind of look at a poster of a movie and then scan it, and the card will be able to tell you that, okay, so we have a 50% discount on this one because you're a loyalty member or become a loyalty member.
Mm-hmm.
So again, a creative way of increasing the loyalty program and how the experience design aspect was able to influence. Like if I'm going for a movie festival, what are the steps the user will take? What are the decisions they will take? So how do I make my steps in the app faster so that they get to the point where they have to take a decision, and the loyalty incentive can be provided. So that all is the design thinking, where you need a scientific mind or a logical mind, but you also need empathy because you're trying to get into the mindset of the user. So it's a combination of being logical, scientific, creative, and also being a people person. And I think the last example that I wanted to showcase was the user research aspect. So this is just to give you an idea of what it takes behind the scenes to even come to a decision making. So it's not one user, because there could be expert users, they could be, technically challenged users versus someone who doesn't know the field at all. So you always interview 5 to 7 people, and then you see the patterns of how they do the work. So on the left corner, what you see are journey maps of different same profile user, probably an insurance broker from different companies. A Canadian user in Canada for that particular company uses those 7 tools to finish his design, to finish his code. The next guy takes probably 3 tools and does it much faster, but most of his work is done by paper. So based on that, we do a card sorting exercise to understand what they found out, what information is important to them, and then how can we create a system that becomes more optimized, can be used across, whether I'm in Canada versus Australia versus the US. And the end result is the last piece at the bottom, where you're seeing the snapshot of how the application would be. Like 7 steps, you get your dollar value, you're able to sell to the user, and then you test this again, and then optimize it. And that's the whole user experience process.
That's very interesting. So, I mean, this is a career that, I mean, obviously technology is a big portion of this, and also doing a lot of research and talking to people to find out how they enjoy using something, or even just the steps they normally take. So this is really cool because it's kind of putting, like you said, design and art together with even just like interacting and empathy, right? Of just feeling how someone goes through a process.
Yes, you definitely need to be a people person to be in the experience design phase, because you are always interacting with people. You're explaining their design or understanding their problem. You're bringing the user and the developer together, the client together. So yeah, you really have to have that empathy for the user.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. So I knew we have so many people, so I've kind of, summarized everything so that we give time to everybody else. And I'm really excited to look forward to questions that the team has on this one. I would love to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neelam. So yeah, if there are any questions that you would like to ask Neelam, feel free to put them either in the Zoom chat or the YouTube. And we will make sure we circle back at the end and get as many as we can. So our next guest here is Allison Ray. Allison Ray is a project manager at Burns & McDonnell, and I've just learned she's also a former plant ecologist. So how are you doing today, Allison?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
Happy to join the group here today. I prepared just a couple of slides. I like to have pictures. I got into the science field through a kind of in a haphazard way, but most importantly, my interest was in getting outside. So I enjoy having pictures of things that are in the outdoors.
Oh, I enjoy looking at outdoor pictures as well. So.
And as Nate mentioned, I'm currently a project manager at Burns & McDonnell. As happens sometimes, you start to do more things indoors as you get older. But you all maybe can see that I have what remains of a pretty bad sunburn I got on Friday. I still get to go outside sometimes. So Friday I conducted a rare plant survey.
Oh, that is fun. Seems to be a little bit frozen, but when you do pop back in, I'd love to hear a little more about that.
I am a biologist first and foremost, and that informs the work that I do on a day-to-day basis.
So yeah, how does biology interact with what you're doing now?
I work at an engineering firm. Can you hear me now? How's that
Yes,
going?
yes.
Okay. I work at an engineering firm, so I work on a variety of different projects. We specialize in energy related facilities, so I assist mostly with the environmental permitting required for those projects. And this kind of work is with all of the large environmental laws that folks on this panel or attending this panel may have heard of. Endangered Species Act, first and foremost, clean air, clean water, and then various state environmental laws and regulations. So Friday, I was out in the field taking a look for some endangered species of plants that may be growing in the vicinity of a proposed project. If you find the plant, then you take steps to protect the plant up to and including removing it and putting it somewhere else out of harm's way, or by adopting a different construction schedule in order to avoid the plant, or by altering the design. So I work with engineers to improve upon their designs to reduce those environmental impacts.
Oh, that is very awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can advance to the next slide. I think it's pretty important to highlight that scientists are, in the nature versus nurture debate, I'm firmly in the nurture debate, and I definitely don't fall into the white lab coat type of scientist. And I am an identical twin, as you can see in the picture there. And so it's been interesting, I think, to look at even the scientific experiment of what the two of us were interested in and what we ended up getting into as adults. And I have 11 siblings.
Whoa.
And so a bunch of them are a lot older than I am. And so it was informative to me to see where they went with their lives, and gave me an interest from a young age in a diverse set of topics, and I went to college, actually, to a liberal arts college, and took a variety of classes, and then sort of just fell into field biology as my main interest. But I have a BA in biology, so I took fewer biology classes in undergraduate than I did other kinds of classes. But I definitely was interested in getting paid to hike. And then you can advance to the next slide. So I started off my career, if you want to call it that, working for the National Park Service. I then later worked for the Audubon Society at a research station, and then for the Forest Service doing wildfire management. And wildfire management consists of cutting down a lot of trees. And I've been working in consulting, environmental consulting, and with engineering firms on the kind of projects I mentioned earlier since 2013. But again, first and foremost, just like to be outside. And again, don't get to do that much these days. If you want to advance to the next slide. So this is quite some time ago, removing invasive species of plants. That's what habitat restoration is tromping around and getting rid of the stuff that you don't want to be there. Now I write the plans and other people do the tromping around and the shovels in the ground removal, but it used to be me. So I try to remember that when I assign pretty difficult things for people to do, physically difficult anyway. The left hand is what used to constitute a traffic jam way back when. So cows on an access road. And I think also this informs what I do now, which is that there are definitely mixed land uses and different competing interests anywhere where we work. And in this particular case, I was on my way to take a look for a endangered species of bird, and these cattle had other ideas, so had to think of them when forming habitat restoration plans later. And then you can go to the next slide. When I worked for the Audubon Society, I think this is one other thing to keep in mind that I didn't quite realize when I got my degree. So I worked for the Park Service for a couple of. I have a master's degree in biology, and again, got very specialized in plant biology, plant ecology. But what I didn't realize is that you do have to work with other scientists quite a bit. So while I was less comfortable with animals than maybe I should have been, I worked with them a lot once I graduated. So one of those pictures is me tagging a barn owl, a baby barn owl, which they're very fluffy and cute, but up close they smell very bad.
I can imagine, yeah.
They get covered with their own poop, which is filled with ammonia, so it's very, very stinky. I also participated in a California mountain lion study, which I think was again not something that I thought that I would do by being specializing in plants, and was very interesting. Attaching GPS collars to mountain lions, you can see that in the female there around her neck. So we tracked them to see where they went over the course of a day, and it's generally known, and this is the kind of study that informs this info, that mountain lions use up to 200 square miles of space, and they don't really hang out with one another. So
You may have cut out there again.
Oh,
you said 200 miles of area?
I'm gonna close even more windows. How's that go?
A little bit better.
Primarily wind farms now. So that work with the Audubon really informs the work that I do now in terms of migratory bird impacts from the spinning blades.
Yeah. So, I mean, I assume you don't get as up close with those birds as you did with that barn owl and outboat, right?
No, there's some really specialized permitting required in order to handle animals. And I try to stay away from the animals now, not just because of how they smell, but because I know that it's impactful to their biology to speak with them. Most commonly, we do acoustic surveys for birds and for bats on the projects that I work on, and that's primarily what we.
Okay. So, I mean, when you say acoustic surveys, you mean like putting a sound recorder out and listening for the bird calls and being able to identify the species and the density of the population.
Yep,
that what you
that's
mean? Wonderful. So it's on a little bit of soundscape ecology. Yeah.
a lot. So the plant stuff helps because there are a lot of plants that are obligate. So that helps with certain things. When it comes to bats, they pretty much like all trees. So it's a lot easier to take their audio recordings and to determine whether or not different species are present. Most of the time we just assume that they are, though, and we set up construction for projects to avoid cutting trees or cutting vegetation during bird nesting season or bat roosting season, which is spring, summer, and early fall.
That's a good portion of the year.
It is. It is.
So,
it's not just animals, but wetlands and other sensitive habitats that we tried to avoid when it's squishy out, like as I like to say.
Right. Yeah. That is wonderful. So I guess a question I have for you is maybe what would be something that you might consider to be one of your, I mean, you shared a lot of really what look like fun experiences and everything from maybe in the past, but on your day-to-day work schedule now, what are some cool things that happen like this?
Well, usually, yeah, it's a lot of reminiscing about what happened in the old days, I must say. Um, but generally, engineers or project managers come to me and they say, I'm going to build X in this Y place.
Mhm.
And to avoid the big impact to human beings, which is also important, most of the time those places are pretty beautiful. So I do get to travel to remote locations where wind farms are going to be, or where transmission lines are going to be built.
Mhm.
And then I hate to say it, but then we do have to bulldoze those places. And so working with the engineers to reduce whatever that footprint of the impact is important. And while it's kind of boring to be on conference calls all day, I know that it's important. It's important work to reduce those impacts, because
Right. Yeah.
um, and coming up with solutions. So while I'm not an engineer, I work with them to come up with designs that are innovative solutions. So we can, bring energy to the people that need it, transfer energy use from coal and gas and oil to renewable energy. That's a pretty important objective
Yeah.
overall. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's thinking of the greater whole of the world with this what we call green energy, but then also not sacrificing the world in order to obtain it, which I think is really really cool and really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
And pretty frequently when it comes to transmission lines, we do these comprehensive routing studies. So we know we need to build from point A to point B, but what route is that transmission line going to take? And these are
Mhm.
high voltage transmission lines, so the tall structures carrying high voltage, like 345,000 volts or more. I usually work with 500,000 volts. Um, and so when we do these routing studies, we take a look at a number of different criteria and try to pick the best route for the least amount of impact. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
while that is desktop, it's pretty cool to go from 100,000 possible routes down to one, and is quote unquote the best, that will impact the least things, fewer things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we?
You can go to the next
Oh.
slide. There's one last thing. And I guess I think it's important to highlight that a scientist is not just a scientist. We're other things. So my day-to-day is filled with engineering, and I do use a fair amount of science. But I'm a big sports fan, big outdoor recreation enthusiast. I work for a number of different social justice initiatives. And I volunteer for two different organizations. One is Farm Aid, which assists American family farmers, and another is Crisis Text Line as a crisis
Yeah.
counselor. And I think that where I started was I had a diverse set of interests, and then I just picked the one that I found most interesting, which was field biology. But I continue to just pick the things that I find interesting, and I think has led to a diverse and rewarding life. Happy to answer questions about how I balance all of those things, because I know that that's also.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm sure we'll get some questions about those as well.
Good.
And thank you so much, Allison, for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome.
All right. So up next, um, I'd like to welcome Heather Honor, who is a Doctor of Pharmacy candidate at the Yukon School of Pharmacy. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
Great.
So I'm not exactly in the same spot in my career as a lot of the other panelists. I'm still a student. I'm in the fourth and final year of the professional part of the program. But this is not where my original path that I wanted to take when I graduated high school. I actually got, I did a double major at the University of New Haven in forensic science and chemistry. I wanted to work in a lab, thought that would be really cool. As time kind of went on and I gained more experiences, I realized I wanted to work more with people and kind of just happened upon pharmacy. My advisor was like, why don't you just check this out? And a week and a half later, signed up for the exams and just was like, all right. And then kind of just like dove right into it and didn't think too much of it. And I definitely love my decision. It's something like most people don't really think about. A lot of the times pharmacists are just the people at CVS or Walgreens, but really you can do a lot with it. So like 3 of the major areas in pharmacy would be community, what you see in Walgreens or CVS. Then you have hospital pharmacy, which you could be in it's usually in the basement, but you're in the basement verifying orders, doing production, making sure the medications are correct, or you can be on the floors and do clinical pharmacy, which is where my end goal is. So you can actually work with providers. You go and round on a medical team. So like typically for those that don't know, they have a couple of doctors, usually a resident and some med students, and they round on each room and they go through the patient, present the patient, and kind of do their evaluation that way. So clinical pharmacists can join in on that, or you don't necessarily have to be doing that. It kind of just depends on the situation. And then they also have industry. So industry could be working at big pharma, some like the major pharmaceutical companies, or you could do like the FDA, the CDC, and kind of do more research based position. I'm actually going to be at the FDA as a student, hopefully in March. We'll see. Because of COVID, it's a little difficult.
Sure, yeah, everything's kind of shifting around, but
yeah, it's been an interesting experience so far. We have to wear masks all the time. Here's my mask. But I'm in a room by myself, so it's okay. But there's a lot of different opportunities that are available. You do a lot of different things. On the slide here is one of the research posters that I put together, and I'll be putting together a few more as this year goes on. We looked at chemotherapy decision-making aids and kind of surveyed a bunch of cancer patients that were in the clinic, just trying to see if they think certain visual aids might help them understand side effects better. I think a larger scale study might be needed, but we hope maybe in the future we can incorporate kind of some of that information into patients' handouts and stuff to like help them understand better.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you get a prescription or a medication, and you know, it ends up becoming just a lot of tiny words on a piece of paper. So I mean, that I would love to see you continue to look into that.
Yeah, I hope it'll be good. It's kind of nice just to like have a little bit of everything and kind of experience everything in this like journey of becoming a pharmacist. I think a lot of it is just trying to help people and make them understand or optimize therapy in the hospital, or even just doing research and doing drug development. It's all like there's a lot of different opportunities a lot of people don't think about. I guess there was a couple other things. As to become a pharmacist, it's a little less free form than some of the other STEM positions that people have been talking about. You have to get a PharmD, a Doctor of Pharmacy degree or professional degree. And you typically will do 6 years of college, 2 years pre-pharmacy, and then 4 years of the professional part of the program. I ended up doing 8 years because I got a full bachelor's degree before I went in, which is fine. You can do that too. You guys can change your minds. We all change our minds. Yeah, I changed my mind right at the end, so it's okay.
Right. I think
and
that's important too for students and people looking forward to what they want as a career. Is that like it's not something you have to have dreamed about since fourth grade.
Definitely not. It's okay to change your minds. I know plenty of people that have. But it's been a good adventure. So after you finish the 4 years, you then have to sit for licensing exams. One thing about this particular field is that you actually have to take a law exam, which most people don't realize.
Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, so we're the only healthcare professional that has to take a law exam.
Super
Medical doctors
healthcare
do not take law exams, only pharmacists.
Huh.
Yeah, so I didn't think that would be part of my STEM career, but it happened. We'll see. I have to take that next year, so I have time. But every state is different. They why a law exam? So mostly for pharmacists, a lot of it has to do with the community setting. You have to understand what you can and can't dispense, what you can and cannot change on a prescription. So say a doctor sends over a prescription and they forgot some information, which it doesn't happen as much now because everything mostly electronic. But beforehand, you needed to verify the prescription. And if they didn't have information, you needed to know what you can and cannot add. Certain controlled substances, you can't change as much. And then it pretty much has to do mostly with community pharmacy.
Right. Yeah. In protecting the community, right?
Yeah, we're kind of like, in a way, the last line of defense before the patients or like the general population will get the medications. So we need to understand, like, what we're allowed to do, what we can't do, and kind of help protect everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Good question. But that's pretty much all I really had. Was there anything else maybe I should mention?
I think it'd be interesting for people to maybe hear. So you said, your advisors said to maybe just take a look at this, and then in a week and a half, boom, you're enrolled in the program. I'm curious about what are some things while being in the program that you have found really exciting and interesting, and maybe like what maybe motivated you in that beginning to say, actually this is the thing that sounds really interesting and fits with myself and my personality.
So I'll start with the second half of the question. So I was kind of toying between being a medical doctor and going the pharmacy route, just because I had the background in chemistry and I liked chemistry better. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then I realized, like, pharmacists could counsel patients and like could talk to people. And originally I thought, community pharmacy would be good. After I said I signed up for the entrance exams, I realized more I wanted to work in like a clinic setting, which I found was possible. And I thought that would be really cool because I get to visit patients and stuff. In the program itself, originally when I first joined, I did not realize we'd had to give vaccines, which is interesting. New York State, where I'm from, originally had allowed pharmacists to do it in 2014, and I had already started school in Connecticut, so I kind of missed that time frame. So I never really realized that you could do that. I think that was a very interesting experience for me to learn how to give a vaccine. Yeah, we didn't have anyone that passed out, but we kind of didn't give us anything to practice on. We just went and just practiced on each other.
Wow.
That was a very interesting experience. Yeah. And then I also work at the VA hospital in West Haven, Connecticut. So kind of just experiencing what pharmacists can do in the hospital, and being able to compound medications is pretty cool, I think. kind of aligns with the chemistry a little bit, and you get to make different like IVs and antibiotics and that type of stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Well, thank you so much, Heather, and thank you for sharing this with us, especially at this moment in your STEM career journey, right?
Yeah.
Of actually being there, learning more and more about your field every single day, and also just practicing vaccines on each other is a learning experience every time. So thank you so much, Heather.
You're welcome.
Okay. So up next, our final guest is Guy Labella, who is the Director of University Relations at Goodwin University. Welcome, Guy. Oh, unmute. All right.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Nate, for the introduction. And my position at Goodwin University, formerly Goodwin College, I have a pretty unique job, at least I think so. As a Director of University Relations, currently my role is to help develop, well, we have developed an online platform using a Zoom, Zoom, deliver what we call manufacturing in motion, which basically consists of a PowerPoint presentation and a live video demonstration to help raise awareness in the many different career tracks in STEM, advanced manufacturing, technology, aerospace industry, engineering. So my job is very unique. I get to travel with, well, pre-COVID, I would travel with a team of instructors, an engineer, and we would visit all the different middle schools and high schools, not all, but many different middle schools and high schools throughout the state of Connecticut to talk to teenagers about these wonderful career opportunities. We use what we call our mobile lab, which is this 44-foot trailer that's well equipped with all types of cool gadgets, smart board, CNC machine, a welding simulator, 3D printer. So, and the kids get to come on this mobile lab and actually see and touch and feel all the different machines that they would find in a manufacturing facility. So that's the highlight of what I do at Goodwin University. I've been there for 33 short years. And I've had the pleasure of working with many students of all ages, a very diverse student population. It's just been a great career for me. Not what I went to school for, but it is fun, it's exciting, it's different every day, and I enjoy making a difference and just raising awareness and the many different opportunities that are out there.
Awesome. So you said that it's not what you went to school for. I'm curious what your career path was and how it led you here.
Well, I was still in college when I started at the university, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was pursuing an English major. I dabbled into real estate a little bit. I'm also a licensed realtor, so I kind of do this on the side. I got into some fundraising. Serve on a few community-based organizations, such as Rotary, which is the largest civic organization in the world. And I just felt at my age, it's time to give back. It's time to give back to the community. So yeah, I serve on several boards, Chamber of Commerce, as well as a financial institution. And I'm just enjoying what I do every day.
Yeah.
It's been rewarding for me. And I'm a dad. I have two teenage sons, which can be very challenging at times. My 17-year-old just recently graduated from high school, and he's starting, thank you. And he's starting this fall at University, St. Joseph University.
Oh, wonderful.
So they keep me busy.
So you're saying you get on, as you said, it's your mobile lab?
Yeah. Yes.
So I think a question popped up. One of you said 3D printers and things like that, but someone's curious, like, what is a CNC machine?
CNC, computerized numeric control.
Okay.
Now, that mean it's a machine that pretty much you program it, and it makes parts that are sold to aerospace industries such as Pratt & Whitney, the smallest shops that make the parts for jet engines. One does not need to have a college degree to become a CNC programmer or operator. And this is our mission, where we're using a mobile lab. Well, it has multiple uses besides creating awareness in different careers. We also use it to train incumbent workers. We've trained probably over 1,800 employees using the mobile lab. We would go out to the facility, the manufacturer, and we can take as many as, I want to say, 14 employees right into the mobile lab, and we can teach right on site.
Wow, that is really, really cool. Yeah, so it's like continued education.
Yeah. And most of it is funded through Department of Labor grants. So I wish I had more notice, because I'd love to show you a PowerPoint presentation. I have a slide of the mobile lab.
So, I mean, I guess a good thing then is there a website where we can maybe direct people to, or is your mobile lab going to be popping up anywhere in the near future?
Yeah, there is a website, www.goodwin.edu, and just, I believe, go to the home manufacturing homepage. And you can also contact me as well at Goodwin University. And, when the time permits, we would love an opportunity to visit a community-based organization. For example, we've given many of these presentations to summer camps, Channel 3 Kids Camp, Camp Current, Boys and Girls Club, and like I said earlier, many different middle schools and high schools. And thankfully, we're very fortunate to have great supporters such as Launch and the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Also, Pratt & Whitney has provided support, financial support, so we can offer this initiative at no cost to the recipient. It's all funded through grants and sponsorships. But yes, you can contact me directly via email, glabella@goodwin.edu. But in the interim, we do have a virtual presentation that we can certainly deliver with Zoom. And I'll just share this with you. Each year the MIM program offers an opportunity to students to learn about manufacturing, the aerospace industry, and available career paths and job growth opportunities in these many different fields. So take a company like Pratt & Whitney, and one of the questions that I'm always asked is, why would Pratt & Whitney want to fund your mobile lab? And the quick answer is because they need you. I tell our audience that they are the next talented generation of our workforce.
Yeah,
And
I think that's a big thing with STEM careers, right? Is that these jobs exist not just because they might be fun and exciting and engaging your brain in a way that you might find rewarding, but also because they are jobs, right? That we need someone to do this. We need someone to manufacture. We need someone to
right.
Design a user experience. We need someone to help us with our medication. We need someone to watch where different engineering projects are happening, right?
Exactly, right.
Mm-hmm.
And Connecticut is home to over 4,000 manufacturers. Mm-hmm. And there's many different components to manufacturing. It's not just making parts. The food industry is considered manufacturing. Pharmaceutical companies,
Sure.
the retail stores, clothing industry, the food industry. It's all part of manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Anything else you would like to share, Guy, before we get into our Q&A for everyone?
Well, I know we've exceeded our 1 hour. So I will turn it back to you, Nate, for a Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Guy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we're running a little bit longer on time. It's not my fault. It's been everyone's amazing stories and things that they've been sharing. So I would like to, we're going to ask some questions that you have asked in the chats. If you have any questions that are still lingering, you haven't typed them in yet, feel free to type them in now. But I guess my first question that we've picked is, so I will ask Neelam, what excites you the most about the future of STEM and STEM careers and even your field in UX?
Nate, that's a very interesting question. And what really excites me is that because of the awareness that user experience design has got, it's so much broader, and there are so many different people from different backgrounds and different educational qualifications who are joining the user experience design team. There was one time about 20 years back when user experience design was just, considered to be cosmetic, like everybody else would do the job and the designers would get the thing just to like make it pretty, like just add colors, just add pictures. But there is this whole different layer that people have now become aware, and that is what interests people to join. Like I said earlier, people with the scientific bent of mind, or people who have a problem solving bent of mind, or a logical or analytical mind. This is a great career for that. And what is exciting about the future is that, this situation that we are facing right now, and the fact that all of us are still connecting with our colleagues, with families, with friends, reuniting, on the internet, this whole virtual concept, this is all technology, and this is all experience. I practice Buddhism, and I'm, a part of a nonprofit organization that is Soka Gakkai International, and we have meetings. But now, because we cannot meet in person, there are, people who are able to join our meetings via Zoom or WebEx, and it's because of the user experience, how simple and straightforward it is, that people can just click a button and, join those. So that is the future for me. That the technology, the savviness is not just limited to the young generation, but the older generation who were not so used to this part, or said that, yeah, I don't want to learn it anymore because I'm way past that time. They are now absorbing it because this is how you order food. This is how you submit your taxes. This is how you call your handyman, so technology is playing such a big part, and user experience is playing an even bigger role, so that it becomes accessible to everybody.
Right. We've come to a point where it's very necessary in, especially in this current moment. So to have it be easily accessible and equitable to everyone is really, really important.
Yes. Thank you. Great.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we've had a lot of women on this call, so I guess a great question to ask, and I'm sure we have a lot of women and young girls watching. What has your experience as a woman in STEM been, and do you have any advice for women who want to enter STEM careers in general, or as a your specific field? And us, Heather, first. How has your journey been?
No, I think mine's a little on the unique side. Historically, men have been pharmacists, but actually now a lot more women have become pharmacists. So my experience has been pretty welcoming. Originally, when I was in more of the chemistry side of things, it was definitely a little more male dominated. But I think as long as like you're strong and you know what you want, just go for it. Like, people are here to support you and to help you and reach out to local communities. There's plenty of organizations that really kind of focus on women in STEM. There's a couple of different sororities that are involved. So definitely like reach out and look out for these things, because I think it's much more welcoming now. But I also I'm in a little special kind of situation because I'm in a more female dominated field right now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Support structures exist to support people. So it's always great to look for the advice and the knowledge from others who have done it before or are specifically there to help. That's a great point. Thank you, Heather. So a question for Guy.
Yes.
So who or what inspires you to keep going and to keep not only learning more? I mean, so also you have to learn the new technologies yourself, or at least have your toe in the water for them. So what is kind of that inspiration to continue to learn more and to also reach out and, you know, talk to people and get them to learn more?
That's a very good question, Nate. It's constant learning, just keeping up with technology. As we all know, many different professions, it changes daily, it changes by the moment. What inspires me is just knowing that we're making a difference, knowing that we're helping the workforce. There's jobs out there. There's very good paying positions out there. And I'm glad I can be of help to middle school, high school students, guide them in the right direction and provide the resources and tools they need to want to succeed. So it's, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just have to, believe in what you do and see that there's a purpose in life. And, we all want to be successful. We all have our dreams and our goals. With the right support system, I believe everyone has the same opportunity.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that, guy. And I'm going to ask Neelam, I have one more question for you, and then I have a big, broad question for everybody. But Megan from Wallingford wants to know, what has been your favorite project so far? What's been your favorite project so far, Neelam?
Okay, that's a very, very big question. I will take the next 1 hour to explain. But there have been many projects, and before I go into the one detail, I just want to say that one very interesting aspect of user experience design, and I was thinking as to why I didn't mention this earlier, it's like you get to see the end-to-end journey. You start to create something which does not exist at all, or maybe just exists in somebody's mind. You put it on paper, you think it through, you talk to people, you put it to reality, then the developers create it, then the integrators put it in the system, the database, and then someone tests it. And then you see it go live. And then you see someone using it and then someone giving analytical data that, these many people were able to successfully finish the entire process. This part was used more, this part was not so liked, and then it gets improved. So you see the end result, and that is very, very fascinating. The project that I enjoyed the most was the most recent one that I worked on. It was for an insurance client. We just got off it about 2 weeks back. And it was interesting for many reasons. One is because we were actually creating an experience for the users who are going to use it at the front end, as in sometimes we are creating applications for the internal employees. So once we leave the project, we may or may not get data on how successful that application is, right? Because we are consultants, so we leave the organization after we've delivered the project. But this particular one is a user facing, where anyone can actually go online and initiate a quote and get a quote for some kind of an insurance.
Mhm.
And that is interesting because, once we get the data in the next 5 months, we will actually know what the users are using. And then this was a very interesting project also because when it started, and like this is the corporate world, you will get into things where you think the project is the tip of the iceberg, and then you start working on it and it is like so much work.
Mhm.
So this was also interesting because whoever put us on the project thought it was the tip, but it was really so much work. But we were able to successfully finish it on time. And this happened when the pandemic hit us, so the lockdown hit us. So how everybody shifted gears. This was a very in-person project, so we had to go to the client office and do 4 hours working sessions, whiteboarding in a conference room with them, and then suddenly like we couldn't travel.
Yeah.
So we had to go virtual, and how we still managed to do that and still deliver the project that all of us were so happy about. That was a very rewarding experience for me.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing it through, getting to the end, especially with, circumstances changing right through. So my final question is going to be for everyone. And the question is, what excites you the most about the future of STEM and your particular career? And then also, what STEM career do you think you would recommend to someone, whether it's your own or another one you've heard a lot about? And actually, we'll ask Heather that first. So what excites you the most about the future of not just your profession, but STEM in general? And what would be your recommendation?
I think what excites me most is that it's always changing and that it'll never be the same. I like that just because it keeps me on my toes. I'll always have to keep up with up-to-date guidelines, and treatment will hopefully always improve. So that's kind of what really excites me a lot about it. And just that every day shouldn't be the same. And that's really what I was like looking for in a career. And then as for, I mean, I have to be honest, I would recommend pharmacy.
That's okay. You're allowed to shout out your own.
Yeah, I just think it's really versatile. You can go into industry, research, you can work in the community, you can work in a hospital. I just think it's something that a lot of people don't think about, talk about, or even know too much about. So I think just kind of trying to put that word out there and say, like, this is something you can do if, you like the chemistry side of things more than biology. But everyone's different, so just something.
Sure. Yeah. And how about you, Guy? What excites you most about the future of STEM and your profession? And then what would be your recommendation?
Well, it's exciting because it is our future. We're changing the way we live, the way we think, the way we do things. It's on the cutting edge, and I've been encouraging my son to pursue an engineering degree, particularly in aerospace, because I know there will be great opportunities out there. I just think it's it's like I said, it's our future. It's exciting. It's different every day, and you're always creating and doing new things every day. I don't know of any other jobs out there where you get to experience all of it. Working with people and creating and making a difference, and I find it to be very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you, Guy. And how about you, Neelam? What do you think is most exciting about not only your career, but STEM in general? And what would be your recommendations for someone? What career do you think they should do?
So I think Heather and Guy have really answered these well, and they've kind of, ticked back all the things that I had in mind. So thank you, guys. I think STEM is really interesting because I come from a very traditional time where there were only so many things you could do. If you're an engineer, you're supposed to do this. If you're a mathematician, you're gonna do this. It was very structured. But I think this platform opens the doors to so many possibilities and opportunities that there is so much that you can do. Just because you have got your education in a certain thing doesn't mean that your world is now limited, to just this much. And that is the most exciting time, because when I finished my graduation, I knew that it was only like 2 or 3 things that I could do. But now it's like, if I was born at, now, the world would be my stage. And obviously I would go for, again, user experience design, because that's the world that I know. And it's so interesting because the reason why I find this job very exciting is, one, because like Heather said, that it keeps changing. It's never boring. And I guess that's true for every field. I didn't know that pharmacy was so dynamic, but thank you for sharing that. And you get to learn new stuff, but in experience design, you are literally living the life of someone else for a very brief period of time. So you get into the psyche of how an accountant conducts their day. How does an insurance broker work? How does a travel agent do bookings for multiple users, and how do they balance their life? And that gives like, oh my God, this is how the other people do their work. Do they use notepads? Do they use Post-it? Do they use reminders? How do they work? How do they integrate their life with the world? And finally, the world is becoming so small. It's changing so fast, and it's becoming so small. So honestly, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, as long as you give your heart to it and really like do something that you feel passionately about. And even if you've made a choice and you think that's not the right one, Allison, I don't know whether she's on, she dropped off, but she said a very interesting thing, that she had so many things that she could choose from, and then she chose something, but she kept something else also. So the world today is so forgiving that if you've chosen a career that you don't like, you really have the opportunity to change it anytime. And like, we get only one life, so please spend your time doing something that you really love. Thank you.
That's great advice. Yeah, I mean, nothing is set in stone, right? And no matter what we do, we are carrying our past experiences with us. So yeah, do what you want and make sure you enjoy doing it. That's great advice. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you to our panelists. A big shout out once again to Neelam Dimri from Cognizant, Allison Ray from Burns McDonnell, Heather Honor from UConn School of Pharmacy, and Guy Labella from Goodwin University. If any of the things that they said really interest you, I recommend diving deep into the internet of maybe their career and looking up. I'm sure there are fun YouTube videos and Wikipedia articles on all the great things they've said. And also, we want to make sure that we thank our program sponsors. First, This is part of our Family STEM Week at the Connecticut Science Center. Some other things that we are doing this week, tomorrow at noon on Tuesday 28th, we do a live stream, and tomorrow we'll be with Olheiser, who will be sharing a lot of really cool stuff with more STEM careers. On Wednesday, we'll be doing another mini STEM career showcase with other STEM professionals from the Hartford, Pfizer, Connecticut's Children's Medical Center, and Cognizant again. And then Thursday at noon, we'll do another Lunch Bunch live on Facebook with Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense. So there are a lot of really great opportunities for you to connect with us virtually again throughout the rest of the week. The Connecticut Science Center is open currently, and we are doing some STEM career programming there as well. A lot of fun aerospace activities, some fun virology. Yes, virology can be fun, and also some robot programming is happening this week. So we'd love to see you in person as well. But this could not happen without our program sponsors. The STEM Career Showcase is presented by Stanley Black and Decker, and also presented by the Hartford, Cognizant US Foundation, and Launch Hartford, with founding support from the Mandel Bronstein family. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Once again, thank you to our presenters. A big round of applause for them. Definitely awesome, inspirational, and I mean, I had a lot of fun on this chat. And once again, I apologize for this going a little bit over, but I was having too much fun and I wanted to hear everything that everyone said. So everyone watching at home, have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, if you are thinking about a career in STEM, you definitely know someone who has a career in STEM. Reach out to them, ask them their experiences, ask them for their advice. I'm sure they are more than happy to share with you as much as we've learned today, if not even more. Once again, thank you, everyone.